guys, this is Derek with Certified Legacy. Today we're going to be going over the most practical legacy jailbreak device that runs iOS 6 in 2025, but there is a catch. You gotta dual boot this if you want iOS 6, or you gotta get 7.0 X blobs if you want iOS 6, or if you find one on iOS 6 then you can get it. So, what am I even talking about? Why is this the most practical device? We'll be going over that today. I will also probably make a challenge video where I use this for a day. It is this iPad 4 that runs iOS 6. So we're going to be going over that. Also, I already made a video of me unboxing and jailbreaking this iPad. So if you are interested in that video, I will leave a link in the description for you to go watch this first. And then come back to watch this video. So let's get into it. So why is this device the most practical? Well, there is a couple reasons. First reason is it runs an A6X chip on iOS 6, and this thing goes right through iOS 6 like butter. Even with like tweaks and stuff, man, this thing is so fast. Look. So let's like open up the videos app. Look how quick that opens. Look how quick it goes. It's very smooth. Go to the music app. How quick that opens and closes. Look at how quick it opens the newsstand and closes the newsstand. What I'm trying to say is this is probably the fastest iOS 6 device other than the iPhone 5, and it has a good amount of RAM, so you can run any games that you want to run on this thing. Plus, it has a very beautiful Retina display. So, if you don't know what the Retina display is, let me explain to you. So basically, Retina display is a display that is so high resolution that you cannot see the pixels at all from your eyes here with your viewing distance and stuff. And these Retina displays are so good and they hold up so well nowadays that if you go look up the resolution of the newest iPad and compare it to the iPad 4th gen, for example, the resolution is it's very close, and I promise you will not notice a difference other than the fact that this is LCD, obviously. But, man, these things do look really good. So what can you do on it exactly? Well, I already made a video on how to make the most out of iOS 6, and I actually use this iPad to do so. But I'm just going to be showing you that this is completely possible to use this as your main device for as long as you want to use it. So let's go into that. You can do FaceTime. You can message people, because it's all over Wi-Fi, obviously. You can use this as a YouTube and streaming device. You can play games, but I'm getting ahead of myself, so let's go right into this. You can also drop music on here, so yeah. So, let's go into YouTube. With a tweak called Tube Repair, you can make YouTube work again. And there's plenty of stuff you can watch on here, let's look up one of my videos. See, comes right up. You see my most recent video. And I will pretense this, but it is kind of buggy. Sometimes these will not load, and it'll take a little bit for it to load. But overall, these usually will work very well, and you can definitely use this as a YouTube device. But there's also another caveat. You can't sign in, which is a little thing with Tube Repair currently. Eventually they'll probably come out with something where you can actually sign into YouTube and stuff, and yeah. Some other things you can do on it, such as get music on this. It is pretty easy to get music on this. You just gotta sync with iTunes, and you can drop a ton of music on this thing. I haven't done this with this iPad specifically. I've done this with some of my older iPads that I have, but yeah, I will also do this with this one. I'll probably drop some music on here. And another thing that you can do on here, you can also message people. So let's test that. So as you can see, I've just messaged myself on iOS 6. Another note is you can technically message people on an iPod still, like an iPod Touch 4 or 5, or so you can still technically message people over Wi-Fi on these old devices. It's just, this is probably the best way to do it, in my opinion. If you even want to do that, I'd probably just use an iPod. Well, not iPod, what am I saying? I would just use an iPhone, so, yeah. You can also still technically FaceTime people, I'm pretty sure. I've tried this before. I'm still not completely sure. You can even get Apple Maps to work in 2025 with a tweak called Maps X, and same thing with like the weather app, for example. But when I jailbroke this iPad, it loaded Weather Map, the weather app onto here, and I'm not really sure why it did that. I just did that. It happened with Legacy iOS Kit. I don't know if it'll do that for you, but it just loaded that weather app on here, so let me show you. So you can see Cupertino is on here, and it works perfectly fine, so yeah. Also, mail does work. I am not logged in on this iPad, but I have tried emailing people before on this, and it does work, kind of. It sort of works, but I mean, if you're trying to daily drive this is probably still not the most practical thing, but if you want to daily drive iOS 6 as a challenge or for fun sometime, I still do think this is probably the most practical iPad. Like, you can get the App Store to work. I'm not going to show you that. I've made videos on that before, so you can actually go check that out. But you can also get, like, stuff from iTunes and stuff. You can do anything on this, basically. You can sign into Game Center, but I wouldn't recommend that. You can sideload a ton of games on here, play a ton of old classic games. You can take pictures. You can even make reminders on here. You can drop in videos. Your contacts will show up if you've signed into iCloud properly. And yeah, this is quite practical, actually. And also, I want to also preface this by saying most of the stuff I show here only work with tweaks and stuff. Like, you can't even sign into iCloud without certificates. You gotta be a little bit a techie to figure out how to do any of this and jailbreak and stuff like that. So, yeah. But once you've jailbroken, you can pretty much get everything to work. So, technically, what you can do, you can message people, you can FaceTime people, you can watch YouTube, you can play video games, and you can, the most optimal way to get games are through Viteris, which is, I'll show you. It's basically like a side-loading app where you can just search up any game you want, and it's in here, game or IPA or whatever. And it's probably the most optimal way to do this over like the App Store, for example. So, yeah. And also this has a lightning port, so you can pretty much use this with any new charger you want, and it will be super fast charging if you use any of the newer bricks. But obviously, like a USB-C to Lightning, but obviously USB-C to Lightning will not work connecting this to like iTunes and jailbreaking and stuff like that. You'll have to use an actual USB cable. USB to Lightning cables is what I'm trying to say, but like, and like I'm trying to say is like all of these games will like be as smooth as butter and everything, and you can do any of this. I mean, I'm saying if you're looking for something cheap, an affordable option, I think the iPad 4 is definitely a good option. It's probably not the most optimal options. There are probably better options out there, but if you're looking for something that runs iOS 6 or can run iOS 6, is very fast, and can use YouTube or use message people or FaceTime people or play games, then this is definitely a good option. And yeah, that's about what the iPad 4 can do in 2025. I'm not completely sure about other streaming services that you would like. What I was going to say before I drop my phone is I am not completely sure about what streaming services other than YouTube you can try on here. I know you can use other social medias. I know there is Retrogram, which is like a revived version of Instagram, which would also be pretty interesting. And currently, I've heard about a TikTok client for iOS 3. I'm not sure if it would be compatible with iOS 6, but that'd be very cool. And there's plenty of other things. I'm not sure if Snapchat works. It's kind of finicky and stuff, but besides that, that's about what the iPad 4 can do in 2025. Would it be more practical than any other modern iPad, which are still completely affordable? No, it would not be. But if you're trying to have fun and mess around with some legacy devices, then yeah, you can go try it out. So anyway, if you enjoyed this video and you found it helpful and it made you the decision to, I'm gonna go try a main and iPad 4th gen, then cool. Please like, subscribe, and share. And this has been Derek from Certified Legacy, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.